Okay, guys, I have the amazing Kathleen Metcalf. And for those of you that have not met Kathleen, she is someone that me and my wife, Carly, and father-in-law, Kai, we reached out to Kathleen because I know her from 17 years in the past as a rock star assistant who got into teaching and training and educating agents and assistants on how to have a great relationship in their staff. And so when me, Kai, and Carly were going to hire an assistant and we didn't know what to do and how to be successful with an assistant, we hired Kathleen to help us in that first 90 days. And I will tell you guys, that was one of the most successful experiences with an assistant, mostly due to her ability to help the assistant know how to deal with us and for us to know how to deal with the assistant. So I'm so excited to talk to Kathleen today about, some of the success principles of the first 90 days of bringing on and hiring a new staff member on board. So Kathleen, so thrilled to have you here. Such an important topic for most people. So anything that I'm missing in that intro, or we should just jump right in.
Well, I'll just make sure people do know I've been a real estate assistant. I've been a real estate agent. I was in San Francisco, and then I worked for a real estate coach for 6 years. And it was in listening to her coach everyone every week. And I kept hearing, when are you going to hire your new assistant and how are you going to get them trained and do your prospecting? Because before I was in real estate, I have a background in recruiting and training in the retail industry. And I just knew that my worlds could collide and be able to provide something. And so this is now 9 years doing this business, being the bridge between agents and admins and really helping to create strong foundations.
Yeah. And you are awesome at it, by the way. So super excited to pick your brain here. I think, the number one question that I have for you right away is kind of this first week and the first 30 days.
Yes.
Okay. So could you maybe share what's one or two bits of either an advice or a huge mistake that agents are making in that first week and the first 30 days? What's kind of the first thing that comes to mind for you?
The most important thing is clarity. So the new person coming in, and actually the more experience they have as an admin coming in, sometimes the more difficult this transition is because they are accustomed to knowing what's going on, where things are, how to make things happen. And now they don't know.
Yeah.
They have to say, I don't know. Could you explain that to me? Where is that again? And they hate it.
Yes.
So it's very important that they have a job description or a list of tasks and responsibilities. It doesn't have to be, terribly formal or legal, ease, but it does need to be, this is what you're responsible for. So they can begin to chip away at what are all the things involved in doing their job well, because they want to be successful.
Yes. Yeah.
The biggest mistake that an agent makes, particularly one who has been waiting and chomping at the bit for this new person to come, and now they got a really great person, and so they overwhelm them. And they give them 3 years lists of backed up projects and things they want to get done, and they talk about their vision for 5 years from now, and now they overwhelm the new person who isn't sure how they're ever going to be successful at that.
Yeah, that right there is what I'm seeing as the common mistake, right? It's just really keeping it super simple and trying to get a win in that first week.
Yes. And so it's important for the agents, the team leaders to really sort of relax into the idea that this is going to take time, but it is going to be progressive. It's going to get better and better. And everything that happens, you need to use as a lesson. Use as, oh, I didn't remember to tell you this. So that must be why you didn't know that part. And so let me go over that with you. And then making sure that, if someone does something that was their idea of how it should be handled, you can say, oh, well, tell me more about how did you come to that conclusion that you wanted to find out about that? Okay, well, this is how I would handle it. So for next time. And so the art of feedback becomes really, really important. And what I tell agents is, if you can master doing a listing presentation, You can manage people on your team. You can communicate with people to give them great feedback about, I really like that you did this. This really worked for my clients. Or in private now, let me tell you that this, when you did that, or you talked to this person, that totally didn't work for me. So let's talk about why and how you could do that differently.
Yeah.
It's the same skill set of what is your motivation to move and how much do you owe on your mortgage? Like, these are also difficult questions and times to ask, but they've gotten good at that.
Yep, I love it. So I was talking to one of my coaching clients today in Dallas, and one of the things I was making sure that he was doing, I was like, look, I want to make sure that this assistant gets integrated into the culture of your office well.
Okay.
Right now, I didn't really think too much about that until I thought about him and the scenario. So, but I was like, as soon as I said, I was like, this has got to be pretty good, good advice. What is your kind of thought process or advice around getting them integrated before they just like, here's the 4,000 tasks I want you to do by tomorrow at noon?
Right. So we've had a lot of challenges with this in the last year and a half, right? Because people went home.
COVID. Yeah.
And so depending on when people are listening to this, right, whether you have people who work virtually, they have a hybrid where they work at home sometimes, or they work in the office all the time. The culture is really the relationships of being able to know who they can count on. What is the style in which things get done? And so some of this goes right into standards and expectations. Mm-hmm. Like we expect that emails will be responded to within 2 hours, or that you will return phone calls, within 15 minutes or within the business day. Whatever those standards and expectations are, you can't assume that people know what that is for you. Because I like to explain, when someone comes to work for a new company, a new team, they bring their luggage from their old job.
Yeah.
Or their old business or whatever, wherever they came from, and they bring their luggage into your office and they unpack it.
Yeah.
And there's like weird tops and shorts that don't go together, and there's bobbleheads, and there's all kinds of stuff where you're like, oh yeah, no, I don't, that doesn't really fit here. So you have to let them know what it is about what you want here and what that's like. So inside an office, it also means that you need to spend some time together, and you need to get to know each other, and maybe get to know each other's strengths. Like who do you go to for what? Who's really good at things? There's an exercise to do in team building that is remarkably effective, and it's really quite simple. You go around the room, and you can do it on a video conference, and have each person say something about one of the other team members that they really appreciate about them, something they're really good at, something they do well, somewhere where they helped someone else figure something out.
Yeah,
so someone
nice.
might be a really good negotiator, someone might be a really good IT technology person.
Yes.
And so what happens on the team is that the person who has that said about them is like, oh, I didn't really know that you noticed that about me.
Yes.
And then it's sort of a speed way to be able to get to know each other.
I like that. So what about, I love all that. What about the agent that's hiring the assistant for the first time and is in a big office, right? And there's all the staff and the admin and the leadership in the office.
Yes.
And now I've got and they are like, they're the on the go solo entrepreneur they're going to go take over the world, but they're going to go stuff this assistant in the office.
Yes.
Best practices there.
So
because I just was like, you need to go into that office, introduce them to every one of the assistants. You need to make sure they meet all of the, all of the service providers and vendors, like go make this a great experience for them so that they now have coffee and lunch dates set up for the rest of the week. Right. So that's like, it just kind of came, I was like, do that, make sure you do that. But I
love that. It's not true in every office. Not every office is friendly. Not every office is cooperative. And so if you have that, or you can create that, that would be wonderful. And so one of the reasons, it would be great, right? So, but yes, they should meet your photographer, your title person, your favorite lender.
But even the other assistants in the office,
Well, yes. And then you also have to know the line of confidentiality about the other assistants in the office, because they work for your competitor.
I know. I know.
And so, but it is wonderful if that will happen. And they should know who your broker is. They should know who your manager is. They should know who that leadership is, just in case something happens and they can't reach you. You're on vacation. Like, where do they go with a contract question?
Yeah.
Who are those people? What we do with our clients is, because we work with new teams all the time, we bring the admin into community instantly. So we give them other admin so that they can talk to other admin
Yes.
who are not in the same office, but they're all over the country.
Yes.
So that they create community right away and they have someone to go to all the time.
That I found, Kathleen, was so valuable for, Tim, our previous, it was a
Yes.
huge value add. And even putting him into kind of the TC community in California, where then he was part of that Facebook group too.
Yes.
And it was so interesting because like his proficiency level started going through the roof, bringing new ideas back into our business with more confidence that this is what everybody's doing. Here's how we're solving these problems. Here's new. And so he brought in so much more great stuff into our equation. So that is huge.
Funny. And it's kind of funny to think that agents, right, who are part of masterminds and coaching, and they go to conferences and they go to training classes, and admin really haven't had a lot of support. And then we all kind of wonder, like, why? I don't know really why they haven't done it and they haven't really brought anything forward.
Yeah.
But they need community. They need that kind of stimulation, that kind of exchange of ideas. And so if that's available in your office, that's fantastic. If it isn't, they can still have that.
Yeah. My main thing with the office members was like, I wanted them to my thought process was, and please let me know, is one of our admins that we had hired, I didn't realize kind of created a little drama with one of the main kind of admin at our office. And that just was a big problem for me. I was like, that's not what we are here to build great relationships with staff members inside of our organizations. Right. Because we want them with the mindset of an asset. I want every single staff member at this office, whether or not they're on my team or not, to think highly of me. So when I'm in a pinch, I could actually use them. Like, that's just my mindset going in.
So
like versus like, catty kind of, like,
I know, but that water
competition
talk in companies is so common, right? It's like the TV show The Office. And so once again, this is standards and expectations, right? They might just not look in the camera, but the standards and expectations of, you represent our brand. You're an ambassador of our team. We need you to make alliances in the office. It's important that you not talk about our clients or their deals outside of our broker, but those boundaries you cannot assume, because a real estate office is not like a regular business where everyone worked for the same team. Yeah.
By the way, that last thing that you said, I feel like that happened to me.
I know, but it's a kind of an innocent mistake for someone who doesn't really, it's like if you haven't worked in medical and you don't know to talk about, people's charts, like you have HIPAA, you kind of have HIPAA in real estate, but your admin didn't take most likely the real estate exam. They're not licensed. They don't need to be licensed most of the time. Yeah. And so you have to then have standards and expectations to be able to talk about that. It cannot be assumed.
Yeah, that's really good. I really need some help with the 30-day review, the 60-day review, the 90-day review. Yes. What is your recommendation around this? Because I've got quite a few clients who are right there in that spot, and they're kind of asking me like, what should we do? And I'm like, I'm going to interview Kathleen.
And we'll get some answers. We'll get some suggestions.
Yeah. What's the best practices around this?
So remember, we talked about it's a progression. And so at 30, 60, and 90-day increments, we want to be able to measure progress. And you're always looking for what has gotten better. What have they learned? What have they been exposed to? So you've got to fill the bucket before you start, panning for gold, so to speak. Like, you can't just pick everything out that they don't know how to do, the mistakes they've made. So that balance of positive and corrective feedback is important. And in our with our clients, we have an onboarding program called 90 Days to Thrive. So
Mhm.
we work with agents who have new hire admin for their first 90 days. We do a 90-day review. We don't actually do formal 30 and 60-day reviews, but we do have a 30, 60, 90-day plan.
Mm.
And we check in about that. Where are you on the plan? So have you, updated the listing presentation or learned how to do that inside of half an hour so that if your agent got an appointment, you would be ready to rock?
Mm.
Have they been exposed to, launching listings, or did we even have any to launch? Have they been working with your buyers? And so then maybe we move launching listings to 60 days because they didn't get to do that in their first 30 days, or either
Right.
way around.
Right.
So what you're really looking for is to measure progress and then set new goals for, okay, let's hone in on what's next. And that big list kind of comes from their job description. What is it that they need to learn to do
Mhm.
inside their first 90 days? Where at the end of 90 days, the goal is that they have their kind of arms around their job, but they're only potentially going to be this deep. It is going to take months to get to a level of what we refer to as leadership in their role. They go through the 3 phases of follow, manage, lead. In the beginning, they learn to follow, like, how do you like to do things? Then they get to manage, preferably by their 90 days, where they can manage what they're responsible for, but they may still not be in great leadership about it because they need more practice. They need to build more confidence.
Mhm.
And that happens the more deals you bring in. So we say to the agents, keep the pedal to the metal. The
Yeah.
more deals you bring in, the more practice they get.
I like the way you said something. You said in the first 90 days, you're this list of things that you guys, it's like, these are the things that they're going to need to learn how to do.
Yes.
It's not that they're going to be doing them and have ownership and doing it perfect the way that you do it.
Correct.
But that's, I really like the framing of that is so important.
Yes. And so we actually recommend, we have sample schedules for the agent and the admin for the first 3 months. And we recommend that the admin have 2 30-minute blocks a day for learning. They're going to learn while they do things, but they have to have time to like do the tutorial on Sisu or, whatever.
Well, yeah,
Follow-up boss.
and I just throwing my coach advice out there, but like, I feel like it's more than the 30 minutes or 1 hour a week. I feel like
that's a day. So it's 5 hours
a day.
a day.
Yeah,
30-minute blocks a day.
Yeah, I feel like, then that's more in line with kind of what, I agree with that then. Because I feel like that's a huge mistake, right? Is, I think a lot of agents kind of miss the fact that like it took me a year and a half to learn YouTube technically.
Mhm.
I probably listened to hundreds of podcasts. I've looked at, evaluated multiple channels. I was highly motivated to learn it. And then now if I were to hire an assistant, be like, oh, cool, you take over my, my YouTube. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I've used YouTube. And they're like, oh, good. Well, then you can run my YouTube. That's a huge fundamental mistake to think that they could just pick it up and take over on it.
There's going to be building blocks, right,
Yeah.
to get good at that. So the other factor that we need to talk about here, which is what is the new admin really walking into? So it's one thing if you have checklists and you have software, but most teams, most agents do not have a procedure manual. So you have the tools, but you don't have the how-to. And so now they have to try to string together what goes in what order and what system goes with what piece. And so that slows down the new admin's ability to really rock and roll, because they're actually developing your workflow, your system, while they're learning it. Because I have a colleague that uses the sandwich analogy, which I really love, which is your admin comes to you and knows how to make a sandwich, but they don't know how to make a sandwich that you really like.
Yeah.
So they have to learn from you what flavor that is, like what are the elements of that, because otherwise they're creating it their way, and that they're not your brand, you're your brand.
Yeah, I would say, most of the agents that I kind of deal with a lot of those a lot of that growth, they are right now the limitation to their next level of production and nothing else. It's not lead generation. It's not client conversion. It's not anything other than they're maxed out at their bandwidth. And that's the bridge for them right now, hiring their first admin, bringing the first admin on.
Yes.
And they're kind of right there. And it is that they don't have any processes and checklists. They don't use any kind of task management tool sets for organization.
They just do what they know to do.
They do what they know to do. They keep the checklist near and dear to their head and their heart. And, you know, and now here they are bringing in this person for the first time. And it's kind of, they're typically, please let me know if I'm wrong on this, but I find, Kathleen, that most successful real estate agents, the reason why in the beginning they are successful is because they're super intense about what gets done, when and how it gets done. And they're really good doers, and they're pay very close attention to the details and making sure that the customer is protected and that they're doing a good job. But that mindset and that intensity is what stops them from bringing on the new assistant and going to the next level.
Yes,
it's
because
like
they are
got
used to
them
doing
there and made them successful is also the limit. So, you know, any good advice just for that group? Because I've got quite a few of them who are just staring at the hiring the assistant for the first time and are just paralyzed by it.
So there's help. There's help. They're not alone. And there are agents and teams who have been in business for decades who do not have procedure manuals, who make millions of dollars in GCI, that we love to help them too. There's no shame in it. Look how successful you've been doing it just the way you've been doing it, right?
Exactly.
So whatever state you come in, it's okay.
Yes, exactly.
Because we actually started creating a service last year called systems documentation, where we will actually document what is in your brain in procedures so your admin can follow it.
Nice.
Because you're not, the agent's not supposed to be good at that. There's no shame in that either. Like, it's about, you have a brand, you have a way of doing things. Now we just need to document it so that you can duplicate it with someone else. Now, a really strong admin who takes ownership and who is creative is going to potentially make suggestions to this agent saying, I know you like this filed in 3 places because you don't know where, you might want to look for it no matter where you are, but that's not really scalable. So let's pick one place where we're going to file this, and do it there so that we can do more volume. So I have an agent now who has got all kinds of intricacies in his systems because he thinks like that. We've hit the wall.
Yeah.
And he can't grow and have all those steps. But, let me just pull up quickly and share my screen with you to be able to show your readers. So we call this the business circle.
Yeah. And just for everybody too, I'm going to make sure I link to all of Kathleen's information down below, her 90-day program, her system stuff. So, make sure you guys check her out and all the things she's doing. Go ahead.
So this is the flow of the business, like a clock, from lead generation, lead follow-up, appointments, listings, offers, pending to closing. What happens when you close deals? How do you keep in touch with people to create repeat and referral business, which takes us back to 12 o'clock for leads? Every step of that in your business, however you like to run your business, there should be a workflow. There should be a system. There should be a set of tools that you use. And so this needs to be documented. When you do that, you can delegate. When you do that, you can have high accountability on your team. You can gain trust and have the satisfaction of knowing that things are happening the way you like to have them done. You can build and grow from there. So this is what we do in our systems documentation. And for training new hires, we have a 12-module training program to teach an admin how to be a real estate admin. So everything from, risk management, time management, working with clients, marketing, lead management, however you want them to participate, managing listings and pendings, And we, of course, have a special bonus module called the Keep Calm Guide. The top 10 tips for being a better manager.
Yep. I love it.
So, you know, those things in conjunction, and an agent who's a high producer, a top producer, who's a great negotiator, is not supposed to think they're supposed to be good at this.
No.
Now you just need to brain dump so that that can be documented. So you know when to check in and be able to monitor that you're going to inspect what you expect. And then you're going to be able to live in your zone of genius, spending more time with leads, lead follow-up, appointments, negotiating, right? PLAN. Prospecting, lead follow-up, appointments, negotiating. That's 80% of an agent's job when they have support. The other 20% of their job is to meet with their team, to be able to look at their marketing, their financial reports, to run their business. But now we're separating what is really sales and negotiation and what is operationally running the business. And that process can be a little painful for some, but it is how you can grow and it is how you can have a higher quality of life.
Yeah, that's, to me, that's the 100% the game. Once you know that you can sell a house and make money in real estate, and you can do that repetitively and you can do it at will, then it's now the decision is now, how are you going to enjoy the rest of your career in this business?
Yes.
And, you know, and set up the business effectively for yourself. Right. And, you know, just to highlight, and we'll wrap it up, but you guys find all the information down below to talk to Kathleen, talk to her about her 90-day program, talk to her about her systems program, right? She's amazing. Highly recommend it. Used it myself personally. The quote that that struck me really intensely, I think it was a couple of years back. I was reading Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrants.
Okay.
And I'm just reading the little tiny book. I think I was just going through the PDF, and there was that little chart, you know, employee, small business, solopreneur, big business, and investor. And there was just one little line in there that says to go from a solo entrepreneur, small business to a big business. It says you have to be able to capture who you are and what you do and turn it into a system. And I was like, that for all of my, you know, successful real estate agents, this is such the perfect quote for them, because it is about capturing who they are, their market, their clients, what they do, their standards, how they do it, the way that they like to do it, the way that their customers adore, and capture it into a system.
So system does not mean cookie cutter.
Nope.
System does not mean that it's vanilla, that we're going to take away what's special. You know, I refer to sometimes my agent clients as they're all a special kind of bird. And some are hummingbirds and some are hawks and some are mourning doves. You know, they're all different. So your system reflects who you are, that your brand, whatever is special about you, becomes a part of your system. And then it's just that you're sort of, you know, creating a legacy about that, so that your brand is then a team and not just you responsible for everything.
Yes, exactly. All right, we'll end on that. Kathleen, you're amazing. Guys, find Kathleen, and thank you so much for your time. We will have you back again. Let's talk about some other awesome topics as they progress. So thank you so much, Kathleen, for your time.
Thank you, Patrick.